Sorry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Femme Africa Spilling the Tea. The topic of today's conversation is the science behind content creation in partnership with Alpha, a new Union Bank initiative. So, I'm just going to start by giving a brief introduction to Femme Africa and what we do and the topic. So, Femme Africa is a community and a platform for women in the creative industry. Our goal is to help and empower and educate women on everything basically that is to know to provide them with an impactful career. Today, we're going to get the ins and the outs of content creation, making a career out of it, and basically exploring today's digital world. Alpha, on the other hand, is Union Bank's proposition for women, which was created as a platform to enable success and empower women across all segments of the Nigerian society through capacity building opportunities, networking platforms, partnerships, and tailored financial services. Without further ado, I'm going to go straight into introducing our panelists for today's session. Um, just to add a quick note, if you have any questions, there's a separate Q&A question later. There's a separate Q&A session later on, so you can kind of hold it or ask, and then if we have time, we'll get to it. So our first panelist today is Peace Itimi. She's best known as a digital marketing and growth expert, a YouTuber, and a well acclaimed public speaker and trainer. Peace is passionate about human capacity development with a focus on equipping young people with the knowledge and skills required for them to leverage employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. She'll talk more about the work that she does and about herself when she's speaking. Our second panelist today is Tutu Adetumbi, a social media brand builder who has been building a fabulous career in a modern industry for over 4 years. She's an Instagram consultant and digital strategist to global brands like L'Oreal, West Africa, MTN, Oriki Group, Label, and more. She's passionate about helping energizing people market their brands in innovative ways on social media through content strategy. Innovation is her passion and her job. Our third speaker today is Toby Aldra. After graduating with a minor degree in culture, media, and entertainment and a degree in psychology, Toby started her career in digital and social media marketing. She started creating content first with her fitness page at Tone with Toby 2 years ago, and then with her main page in 2020 during quarantine when she accidentally fell into influencing. And last but not least is Koinsola Akirinle, our amazing representative from Alpha Hub. She's the community and content manager. Great. So I'm just going to go straight into it by asking all the panelists this first question. So everyone, and you can just go turn by turn. How did you get into what you do? So I know that we have a digital marketing strategist, or we have content creator and influencer, and then we have Koinsola, who is the content and community manager for Alpha. So how did you stumble into your career, or was this always the plan? Oh, sorry, Tutu, do you want to start first?
Sure. I think just like everyone, I stumbled into the digital world. So I was a full-time lawyer, and I then basically I didn't know what to do with myself. So I applied to literally be the digital editor, and I'd never known anything digital, nothing like that. And I basically had to learn on the job. So they said, oh, we need a newsletter. I would Google how to do a newsletter, and I would do that. And then I think the more I started, testing out all these different areas of digital, I then started seeing that I was more passionate about Instagram marketing and content strategy. And that's kind of how I built a career in it. So yeah, I think I stumbled on it heavily. I didn't have a plan for it.
Okay, Peace, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So just like to of a coincidence. So I'm doing many things, digital marketing. I'm also doing YouTube, and both of them are coincidences. My digital marketing career sort of stemmed from blogging. I started blogging in 2012. because I was on Twitter one day and I saw somebody say I had a blog, and I'm like, okay, what is a blog? And I did a lot of research that day and ended up opening a blog. And from that, I kind of ended up going into digital marketing. And then one day, about in 2017, I'm speaking to someone, and he's like, with the way you speak, if you actually start a YouTube channel, people would actually listen to you and watch your videos. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? Let's try it out and see. So these things were never the plan. The plan was to be a medical doctor when I was a child. It just happened, and now I'm stuck here. I'm not going anywhere. Yeah.
Thank you. Kwansala, I know that you're also a content creator on YouTube, so the same question for you.
Yeah, so I guess content creation started through like my YouTube channel and then Instagram, and then getting this job at Union Bank honestly really just kind of fell into my lap. Like I never thought I would be working for a bank. I wasn't even sure there would be a role that wasn't like finance heavy working at a bank or like a huge corporate institution. But when I found out about Alpha and the fact that it's an initiative for women, I was pretty interested in that, especially considering like the gender inequality situation in Nigeria. And yeah, I just enjoy creating content, and this was just an avenue to keep doing that, I guess.
Toby?
Yeah, I think for me as well, I definitely stumbled into this. Like when I started at university, I wanted to be a psychiatrist. Like that's what I had wanted to be literally since I was 8. And then I started studying psychology, and I was like, okay, this is definitely interesting, but I don't think psychiatry is the route for me. Maybe I'll go with sociology. So I started taking more sociology classes, and I was kind of like, okay, this is interesting, but I'm also really interested in like media and entertainment and stuff like that. So I looked up all like the minors at my university, and I found that there was a minor for culture, media, and entertainment. And when I picked that up, I was like, okay, I think this is definitely what I want to work in, but I don't really have any like social media background that I can sort of, if I'm getting employed, I don't have anything I can show my employers. So like, okay, I'm going to start an Instagram page. So I started my fitness page, and I was like, wow, this is really fun. I really like this. Started posting my stuff. People started liking it, I guess. And then at the beginning of this year, like when we entered quarantine, I was still posting on my fitness page, but I started posting a lot more on my own main page. And I guess that just like, I mean, I genuinely have, like I say to people all the time, I literally don't know what happened there. At the beginning of this year, I had 5,000 followers, and now I've got near 30K. So it just kind of like snowballed from there, and it became something I'm interested in. Definitely not like something I don't want it to be my career, but influencing, I don't want it to be my career, but it's a really nice side hobby to have. I mean, my career right now is digital marketing, and that's what I'm genuinely interested in. But yeah, I guess everything just kind of fell into place eventually.
Great. So all of you have mentioned how you basically stumbled into it. And also there's the aspect of digital marketing and marketing your content and stuff. So I would ask, what do you think makes good content? Toby, do you want to start?
Sure. I think like for me, there's so much going on in the social media space right now in terms of like everybody wants to be a content creator, or a lot of people want to be a content creator. So like you'll go on your explore page, for example, like everybody knows that your explore page is tailored to what you like to see, right? So you'll go on your explore page, and for example, say like I'm obsessed with streetwear. You go on my explore page, everybody is wearing streetwear. There's nothing like unique about everybody doing it. But then you'll find like a few people who are like, okay, like she's doing this, but then it also looks really cool because she's done this as well. And I think like the main thing for me is kind of sticking to your style and sticking to like you, if that makes sense. It sounds really cliche, but like not changing yourself to fit within the social media landscape, and more sort of changing the social media landscape to fit your personality, or your social media landscape to fit your personality. So I think that's what makes for good content, like not just trying to be like everybody else, just like do you, I guess.
Kwansala, do you have any thoughts you want to add?
I would definitely agree with Toby. I would say like have a template. So it kind of depends, right? If you're content creation for a business versus content creation on like a personal social media page, I think have like two different approaches. Because one, you're selling a brand slash a product or a number of products. And I feel like you need to be extremely consistent with branding. So definitely having a plan which is kind of what I've learned like in this job, having like a plan month to month, making sure that you're sticking to a certain theme, making sure that your viewers know like essentially what you're about or what this set of content is really trying to say and speak to, I think will help them resonate more with your content. And then if it's more like on like the personal side, definitely what Toby said, stick to you. There are Instagram is insanely saturated right now with carbon copies of like the same thing. I mean, literally what she said, I go on my explore page and I'm just like, I don't even know if I'm looking at one person's page or if this is like a bunch of different people's pages, but everyone's trying to do the same thing. And honestly, if your style happens to be what everyone else's style is, then fine, because I feel like that is also the case. But sticking to your own template will definitely help your page look more like, how to explain it? I don't use the word authentic because I feel like content creation, the word curation is like a little bit left of authentic. Do you know what I mean? It's not like all over the place, but be consistent and stick to like some sort of template or theme.
Okay, thank you. Kunsa and Toby both mentioned how, like, I guess Instagram in particular is sort of saturated. So the question will be, how do you set yourself apart from basically everybody else? Like, how do you stay true to you in a way that, because at the end of the day, the reason things are saturated and popular is because everyone likes that sort of thing. So how do you then keep innovating within this space? Please could you answer that for us?
Yeah, sure. I think that if you want to stand out, like key things that you want to pay attention to is one, relatability, two, value, and three, know the people you're created for. And four, be authentic, right? So relatability is the content that would stand out, that would get people to share, that would get people to engage, a content that we find relatable. If you say something and it makes sense to me, I will nod my head, or I will share it, or I will like it, or I will leave a comment. So as much as possible, when you are creating a piece of content, it doesn't matter in what niche, you want to make it as relatable as possible to the people that you're creating that content for, right? That's a key thing. The simpler it is, the more relatable it is, the more people engage with it. It's the reason why it's very easy for us to relate to comedy, because if Maradi does a comedy or Tahoma, we can see what our mothers are doing there, and we're like, yeah, my mom is also like this, and next thing you know, their content is going viral. If I'm very particular about skincare in my life right now, and I see somebody talking about her skincare struggles or skincare journey, I'm like, oh my god, I thought it was only me. So relatability is key. Also value, and value simply means that you want to make sure that people are getting something from your content, right? And value could be anything. Value means different things to different people. For some people it's entertainment, for some people it's information, for some other people it's enlightenment, so for some other people it's it's anything. So just make sure that when you're creating a content, you're putting it out there, ask yourself, what value would somebody get out of this? Is it entertainment? Is it information? Is it education? Is it emotional connection? Is it community building? But it has to be something, because I will only resonate with you. I will only come back to your page. I will only come back to your video if I know that even beyond it being relatable, I am getting a certain kind of value from this, especially if you're trying to do the business of content where you're not just creating content, but you actually want to make money from your content, and you want to become an influencer, or you want to become a personal brand, and you're trying to use that to build yourself. Make sure you're giving full value. And in three, know your target audience. You can't be relatable and you can't give out value if you don't know the people you are creating for. So what people are you creating for? And for them, what does value mean and what does relatability mean for them? I always remind myself rather to create content not for myself, but for the people that I want to engage with. So what do they want right now? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? Who are they? What are their needs? What are their wants? And how can I create content that fits those things for them? And the first thing I mentioned is authenticity. Authenticity doesn't mean that we won't curate, doesn't mean that we won't, pick different ideas from other people. For me, I think it's making sure that I am putting my personality into the content that I create there, right? Or the current content that I curate there, so that people are able to say, this is Peace, this is how she does her content, this is how she speaks, and this is Koyosola, and this is the vibe that you get when you engage with her own content. So that vibe and that energy that we all have that it's different, find a way to infuse that into your content, so that whenever people see it, even before they see your name and your handle, they can almost guess that I'm almost very sure that this content Peace has something to do with it, or Toby has something to do with it, or Koinsola had something to do with it.
Thank you for that. Relatability, value, and knowing your audience. I think that's important as well. So, Tutu, what I want to ask is, knowing everything that Peace has said and what our panelists have said, I know that Instagram still has like its own technicalities, like the algorithm and stuff. So, if you've armed yourself with these three things and whatever else, what are technical ways like you can get your content noticed on Instagram, or things that people should be thinking about when using Instagram as a platform?
Yeah, I think everything that P said was incredible. It's really true about when it comes to content. But Instagram right now, yes, it is very saturated. The algorithm is making all of us think we're crazy when we're not. But I feel like once people understand what the algorithm is, then they work with it and not against it. So for me, it's just that it's simple. The Instagram gives you more of what you interact with. So where you spend the most time, whose pictures you like the most, the comments, who you DM the most, Instagram will feed your content to them first. So the base of everything around Instagram actually is content, because if you keep consistently delivering good content, then and people interact with it and engage with it, then it's just going to keep recognizing it. So the first thing I'll definitely say is always try to up your game when it comes to content. If you can take better pictures, take better pictures. If you can create better graphics, create better graphics. If you can create stop motion, if you can create motion graphics, always up your game when it comes to content, because innovation works. After that, you then need to ensure that I hate to say this because even I don't follow this rule, but then marketers will say try and post consistently. And consistently doesn't have to mean every day. Consistently can mean if you post twice a week and that's what you do, then be consistent in that, or choose kind of like a rhythm that works for you, or be consistent with it. Third tip, post on stories. Instagram stories is one of the easiest hacks to beating the Instagram algorithm, because if people engage with you and watch your stories, vote on your polls, use your questions, then it kind of just recognizes that level of interaction. So stories is the easiest way to kind of get more people interacting with you. After that, I would then say, growth tactics. So it depends. If you are a personal brand, growth tactics like using the $80, so that's when you're engaging with other people, liking and commenting on other people's pages to kind of boost your engagement rates. I don't want to get too technical. You can, of course, hashtags, but then again, it depends on if you're a brand, so business, or you kind of have a personal page, because I know some personal brands don't use hashtags. But yeah, I feel for me, if I was going to say beginner's guide, post consistently, up your game with content, post on stories, and try and reply as many interactions as you can. So if someone comments on your page, I know this some can be a bit tacky again, but if this is a business, try and respond to all DMs, try and respond to all comments, just so that your engagement rates, is boosted up.
Thank you, Susu. Thank you. Moving on to, I know Peace talks about using the content, especially if you want to use content to earn money rather. So I'm gonna ask everyone like what well, if you're comfortable sharing, like when was the first time you earned money from your content, and was it a situation where they reached out to you and told you the rate, or you had to set a rate? And yeah, basically that's the question. Toby, do you want to start?
Yeah, so the first time they set the rate, and then, I mean, I personally thought it was like kind of low. So I just kind of asked other people, like, oh, that when you guys set your rates, like other influencers I know, I was like, when you guys set your rates, like if you don't mind telling me, what's your like range, blah, blah, blah. And then they were like, it depends on, because the way I used to do it was my followers times 10 for posts, and then my followers times 5 for stories. But then I started learning more about like engagement rates and how like people with higher engagement rates usually charge more. And my engagement rates was like a lot higher than a lot of other people's. So when I spoke to like my friends who are influencers, and I was like, this is what they offered me. They were like, why did you take that? They're like, you shouldn't have taken that. It's okay, cool. So then after that, I set my own rates and I started doing my whole, like, okay, if I do it like this, then I times this by this, blah, 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 blah. I did that. And then that's how I started like setting it. And then I was like telling my boss about this like a month ago. I was like, yeah, this is what I do. And she was like, why are you doing that? They're like, you shouldn't do it like that, because you should also, again, you should do it by engagement rates. And like, I work with influencers at my job as well. And she was like, these people's engagement, they have more followers than you, but their engagement rate is a lot lower than yours. So why are you charging 10 times less than them? That you should be charging more. So I mean, for me, it's just like constantly changing. So it started with somebody telling me what I should take. I took it, apparently it wasn't good. And then now I just like set it as I go along, and I kind of just like look at, I not necessarily compare myself to other people, but I do a lot of research into this stuff because I never want to feel, first of all, I feel awkward charging people anyway. Like it makes me feel extremely awkward. But at the end of the day, I have to understand my worth and know what my content is worth. And I do know what my content is worth, but I still feel awkward charging people because that's just how I am. So I think it constantly changed according to how confident I get charging people more, and also what other people kind of think my content is worth.
Okay, Tutu.
Okay, this is a very tricky one because I have like different comments to make. The first thing, of course, is when it comes to pricing is when you first start out, no one will tell you how much. It's very hard to actually find out because if you reach out to people, they may not tell you. So sometimes you're stuck with having to find your own way, or you will get, bamboozled by a lot of people. But the first thing is, what area of content is now so wide. We literally now have there's influencer marketing, and even influencer marketing is in itself wide. And then when you come to content on its own, we now have specific content creators. We have content strategists. So those are the kind of the people who help with ideation, give you ideas on what to create, and then you go create it yourself. So first of all, find your niche. What are you doing? If it's influencer marketing, if it's this area of content strategy, you need to find what it is you're doing. When I started, I had already kind of built a brand when I was working. If you remember, I said I basically lied and became a digital editor of a company. So for over a year, I had been learning and learning and learning. I had all these apps, which is how I started Digital Tinker. So when I was kind of leaving to start my own thing, I already had clients going out. So my advice, funny enough, what me and my partner did was we sent tons of emails indicating that we had started this content strategy company. If we even offered like a certain discount, introductory discount, and that was it. And then in setting the price, what we did is, so because we do events marketing as well, we would have to cover the prices of the videographers and the photographers, then price our content idea, how valuable it was. So what I would then say is, how much are you spending for the content? Do you have to download apps? Data, please price data under services. Your data, the apps you're using, do you have to go to another location? Do you have to buy props? You have to put that as well as your brain, and basically price yourself accordingly. So that's that. And then if you're an influencer, I wouldn't say an influencer should just immediately like start a page and believe. I always say, do you know what it takes to be an influencer? It's not beans. It's actually a lot of work. And you have to understand that if first, I don't want to even say only lucky people, because it's not luck, it's hard work. These are people who are creating content consistently. They have literally become brands in their own right. So you have to understand that you can't just wake up, start a page and earn what Toby's earning. You can't. So you have to understand that it first requires growth. Even if you're a content strategist, you have to grow your craft. You have to keep learn the best apps or the best things you need to create content, equip yourself with those tools, and then, price yourself. So that's basically my answer.
Thank you for that. And peace.
Did you say peace?
Yes, I did.
Okay, just to be sure. So to answer the first question, the first time I made money was indirectly through my content. So people still had me take money to create content. I instead take money to offer a service. So the very first time I remember being paid because of my content was early last year. I just started YouTube like say 2 months ago, and someone reaches out to me and says, "Hey, my boss saw your video on so topic and wants to speak to you." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. This is my email address and phone number." And I jumped on a call with the boss, and it's the real estate mogul. And he was basically like, "Please come and train my marketing team in-house. There's a lot of things that you said in this video that I think that they need to know." And I called a very ridiculous price, and he was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, there's market here." So yeah, that was the first time. And till now, right, I'm still not earning directly from the content, as an influencer on anything, but get clients because of my content, and that is where I'm staying. And that's why I think that a key thing that I have learned for myself is then to, just like Tutu said, know your niche, know how you want to make money, and focus there. I want to make money from B2B clients because they are the ones that will likely pay me the bigger bucks than actually selling something to my Instagram followers. So I am positioning myself to be that brand that can then work with corporate organizations or business owners on that level, as against like a B2C brand that works with my consumers. And so I'm creating value for my Instagram followers and for my Twitter followers, but not necessarily are they my market. They're my consumers, not necessarily my customers. But the more I create that value for them, the more that my potential customers actually see me as a credible person to actually work with. So I know how to do that positioning, and I know how to speak to these people. And there are times when I create specific content that is for those people. There are content I would create that will be very technical. And when I'm creating it in my head, I know that the average person that follows me on social media, this might not be very valuable to them because it's too deep, it's too technical. But I know that bringing out technical content is good, because when a bigger person sees it, they can then know that this person has the expertise. So I'm always finding a way to balance it out between the people who are consuming and the people who actually pay me. But yeah, find what your market is and how you can actually serve them, while also creating content that would also give you visibility. Because I realize that visibility is a large part of how you are perceived, and perception influences how much you get and who comes to you as a customer. So the more people know you, the more credibility you have, the more you are seen, the bigger your brand is, the more money you can even comfortably call, the more money people are more comfortable giving to you, and even the more exposure you have to reach to certain clients that you might not have access to. So know how to be consistent with content, get that visibility, but also position yourself very, very well and very strategically, so that your actual customers, the ones who can pay you, can also see you and can actually come to you. So yeah, hope that helps.
Thank you. And just to quickly piggyback off that before the next question, I want to ask basically Tutu and Toby and Peace. And I know everyone's always like, oh, negotiate, ask for your worth, but like those conversations are usually difficult. So what's your negotiation strategy? Peace, you can answer, and then Tutu and Toby.
So my negotiation strategy, I think I use two principles. One, I do not compromise on my worth, and then two, also find a way to make it a win-win situation between yourself and the client. If there was a three, the third one would be try not to ever come out as desperate. So I'll try and break it down. Let me start from desperation. I realize that if clients, right, feel like you are desperate, they would call 500 naira for you for something that is worth 500,000 naira, because they're like, this person will end up saying yes to the money anyway. So even when I know that I need this money and I need this deal, I would never let them smell my desperation. I would rather lose out on the deal than be so desperate that I want to take anything. Two is knowing my worth, and knowing my worth helps to make sure that, again, it's a thing of I would rather lose than get paid for less than I think that I am worth. The reason also, it's not just because of the worth thing, it's also because my work comes from the quality of work that I know I will put into it. It also comes from the amount of time I have spent developing myself up to this point. When Tutu was talking, Tutu mentioned things like put your data cost as part of it. Like every single thing that you are doing, matters in your pricing. So how much time am I spending? The time I'm spending on this work, what is it costing me? Because I could have used that time to do other things, right? The data I'm spending, the light, the electricity, all these things that I'm spending, the school I have gone for, so the school fees that my parents have paid. I literally use all of these things to negotiate because all of these things are always making sure that I have money, and when I'm doing serious, and so I've gotten to the point where I don't ever feel like this anymore. So I would rather just be in my house sleeping and be angry that I'm broke than to actually still be doing work and be angry that I was paid like very shitty money. So yes, know what your worth is, calculate what your worth is based on everything that you are putting into the work and the quality of work, and try to negotiate around that range. And then third one is a win-win situation. I think this is a general negotiation rule that negotiation is best won when both parties feel like they've won, like it's a win-win situation, as against where one person feels like they've lost and the other person feels like they won. So even when I'm trying to get paid my worth, I'm also trying to make sure that the client knows exactly the value that they're getting. Because if you don't communicate your value, then they will not understand that them paying you this money is even you doing them a favor for this amount that you're calling. So always communicate the value, and then also find a way to rate your clients. There are clients that you call six figures for, and you know that yes, they can afford it. But there's some clients that you call lesser amount, not because it's not the same work, but because the client cannot afford it. So you will know the different kinds of clients, and you know how to approach them. That way, it's always a win-win for both parts of the table. Yeah, I think so. Generally, these are the two principles I use. Always a win-win situation. Never let them smell of desperation, even when I'm like broke ass. Even when I'm really broke. And then three, always know what my worth is at the time and use that range to negotiate.
Thank you. Tutu?
Okay, so when it comes to negotiation, I think the first thing is know your, I don't know if I can swear here, know your shit, sorry, but just know what you are bringing to the table. So I think over the course of my career, I've spoken to a couple of people, or I even do recruitment for a couple of brands, and I've noticed some people would bring, you know, oh, their rate card is maybe 100,000 or 200,000, and then you'd have a conversation with them, and I'm like, okay, so do you know this, and they're just like, well, no, and then I'm just like, how can you then convince a client? I believe that when it comes to negotiation, try and do your research as much as possible, even if you don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to say fake your way, but if you know you can deliver on the job, but when you're speaking to the client, you have to, like P said, you have to come correct. Let them understand that, look, you're hiring me for this, and this is what I'm going to offer you. This is my value. This is what I've done for other clients. You don't have to do it to the point, like she said, where you sound desperate, but at the same time, know who you are, know what you're bringing for that client. My second advice is don't be greedy. One mistake I made when I first started out in the world of digital was check how much digital marketers were making in England. And I'm sure everybody in this thing has done it, or America. And then your heart just broke and you were just like, oh my Jesus. I mean, modern day slavery. How can a Nigerian woman approach me with 20K when I know, abroad, I'm hearing 1,000, like in dollars and pounds. And in Naira, I'm hearing 20,000 Naira. Like, what do you think this is? So as much as it's painful, don't get greedy. Purchasing power here is different from purchasing power, in any other country. So just wherever you are, even if you're in England, don't get greedy. You have to understand that, especially if you're starting out, you might have to take those, how they say you have to kiss some frogs. You're going to have to be like that in the beginning stages. But then I always say, use that opportunity to grow. Get everything you can. If maybe you can't, if in the beginning you're doing that, get testimonials, get pictures, take screenshots of the page before and after. Use those, I call them chewing gum clients, to build a great portfolio that when you then see your work, even we all have imposter syndrome. You'll be like, you know what, I'm actually really good at what I do. That's that. Then my third advice, and especially for people who are just starting out as well, have a pick and choose kind of rate card. when you're starting out, so that your client can cherry pick. So if they tell you you're too expensive, you can then tell them, okay, you know what, I can take that price, but now you get 1 post per day. I don't know, you know what I mean? Have like a cherry picking. If you do content, have a set price for 100, have a set price for 50, so that, you know, you don't leave maybe losing the client, but then they understand that, look, this price is called for this type of deliverables. Even if you're an influencer, if they tell you they want 5 posts per day, are they crazy for that price? No, you just tell them, okay, no, I can do 1 post. Try and you know, have that conversation with them. So mixing that conversation with value, where you're letting them understand that, you know, this is what you bring to the table. Don't be greedy, and of course, maybe try and have like a cherry picking way of negotiating so that you don't lose the client. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Toby?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything that everyone has said. I think, like, for me, two things that I've learned is that something I used to do at the beginning was like, oh, like, okay, well, if you want 1 post, I'll take between 100 and I'll take between 100 and 120. Like, don't do that. If you do that, they're always gonna pick the lower one. Even especially as, like, I know my, like, let's say, like, I know my content isn't worth like 800. I know it's worth 100. Then what am I setting 2 prices for? To make them comfortable? No, like, I'm the one that's supposed to be comfortable. I'm the one that's producing the content for them. Do you know what I mean? Another thing that I always do is research the client. I don't charge small businesses. I very rarely charge, and I don't charge small Black businesses, don't charge small Nigerian businesses. I very rarely charge small businesses. And I also kind of look at the climate. So for example, now we're dealing with coronavirus, right? People are losing out on a lot of stuff. People want to get their content out there. If I genuinely like the person's content and it's a small business, I'm not going to charge them. Also, words have meaning. If I can get on a phone call with the brand or with the client, then I will get on a phone call with them. I feel like, so for example, say like my rate card says, okay, 1 post is £100. And then they're like, okay, well then please, can you do 8 posts and we'll give you £600? In my head, that sounds like amazing. But then I'm like, okay, but if 1 post is £100, how are you now gonna give me £600 and make it just seem like a bigger number? Because, like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've called a bigger number now, so I'm supposed to take that. Haven't really thought about, or like, say I'm working with an American brand and they want to pay me in dollars. Or my rate cards are in dollars at the moment. My rate cards are in dollars at the moment. So say like I'm working with an Australian brand. The Australian dollar, it's less than the US dollar. So they'll call like a price after I've sent them my rate card, my rate card that says USD. And then they'll call a price in AUD. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not the same thing. So like, words have meaning, like getting on a phone call with them and actually like listening to what they're saying, let them listen to you, let them like understand that like you're actually serious about what you're saying. And after a while, it becomes a lot less awkward. I feel like it would be more awkward for me if I was sitting in front of them and saying, yeah, and I could see them and I was saying, yeah, this is what something, and they're like, okay. But the fact that like a lot of my negotiations are over email or over the phone and I don't actually have to see them, it helps a lot.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, if anyone has any questions, you can use the Q&A box, and in about 10 minutes, we'll start asking questions from there. So, Quintala, I want to ask you this from the business point of view, because you're in B2B, and when looking out for partnerships, so I guess influencer partnerships, marketing, articles for Alpha, like what are some things that you think about when you're trying to choose who to work with? And yeah, that.
I would say first thing is, does their brand match up with ours? That's like literally the most important thing. I always say that it's easier to buy from a person and individual, because I feel like people trust a person and individual because you can resonate more than from an actual company, which is why influencer marketing is extremely popular. But numbers isn't everything. If they are completely left, like everything that they sell is completely left to what your brand ethos is, then there's absolutely no point in you using them as an influencer, because no matter how huge their numbers are, their demographic doesn't match up with yours, and therefore their crowd is not going to buy into what you're selling. And then next thing is we just look at numbers, engagement rate. We look at brands that you've worked with in the past, how those partnerships have worked out. So we'll definitely ask you to send us your like analytics of how each post has done. Obviously, everyone knows about Instagram analytics and like how you can check how many shares, how many likes, how many this. If it was a brand deal where people were required to purchase what you were selling, we would definitely ask for analytics on that. So how many people did you actually reach? Like how many people did you physically influence to actually spend their money on said product? Because essentially that is the main aim of the game. If all people do is like your post, like that really doesn't do anything for the brand. Like it does stuff for your Instagram page, but for the brand, it does absolutely nothing. Like if people are liking your post and not buying the product you're selling, then you have no value. So yeah, you need concrete proof that everything that you've pushed has turned into some sort of like tangible sale, or else really to us, your engagement rate is 0, if that makes sense. Or you're pushing to the wrong crowd then, because then apparently they can't afford what you're selling.
Okay. And how do you say you guys deal with negotiations? Like, do brands coming having like, okay, this is the set budget, we're not going to get past that, or what is that like for you?
We'll negotiate numbers depending on our budget. So basically, I think a lot when people approach Alpha or speak to Alpha and like think about their race, they're thinking, okay, the whole of Union Bank is like who I'm asking for my money from. But each segment in the bank has like their own marketing budget. So it's not like, okay, yeah, Union Bank is a bank, but they're not diverting all their funds to my team, for example. Do you know what I mean? We definitely work with our budget. We work with the reach that we want said campaign to run through, and that's what we would probably charge by. If we know, it's basically like cost versus value, what we're getting back. Like we'll spend as much as we can afford if we know for sure that we're gonna get the value back. And we're a bank, so we want people to open accounts. And if you can't deliver that, then there's really no way that we're gonna pay you like massive amounts of money, because it just wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, negotiations will happen. I mean, it's a corporation, so there's like procurement teams and like other teams that would literally have to have their say. So it's definitely not as easy as dealing with just one person. But if you know that you're bringing value, then it like will work something out.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna ask my final question before we go into the Q&A. I know that it's a Wednesday and a work day, so thank you all for staying with us this long. So last thing for all the panelists is, what would you say in the course of your career as a digital marketer, influencer, content creator, etc., what would you say has worked really well for you in particular, and why do you think that is? Quintala, you can start, and Toby, then Tutu, then Peace.
Okay, so I guess for me, there's like 2 avenues. At my job right now with Union Bank, I would say trying to be as innovative and as creative as possible, but still understanding the brand that I'm working behind. So it's very different to like your own personal Instagram page. You really just can't post whatever. Like there's a whole bank ethos that you have to take into consideration. So yeah, I feel like you really need to think, if you're trying to make consistent money with content creation, yes, one of the best ways to do it is to work for a company that will pay you a salary month to month. But be sure that you understand as a whole what that company is about, because that is the only way that you'll create quality content. And that's the only way that you won't get any pushback from like your marketing team or your corporate comms team, who's gonna have to give you final approval on anything that you come up with. And then I'm so sorry, can you ask the question one more time? I literally completely blanked.
It has worked really well for you, and what do you think that is?
Okay, yeah. And then on a personal note, I feel like engagement, like just responding, you'll be so surprised how much your followers appreciate you replying their DMs, replying their comments, because it just makes you feel more of a person, less of like a random brand. I feel like that definitely has worked like super well for me. I mean, like random people will randomly check up on me on like, oh, the last time I spoke to you, this was happening. I just wanted to check in on how that was. I don't know this person at all, but it's just because I've taken the time out to respond to their like comments or DMs or whatever, or like any questions they might ask. I feel like that's important to support the people who are essentially supporting you, because that's the only way you're going to make money, basically. But yeah.
Great. Next, Tutu.
I think what has helped me so far is, first of all, understanding that it takes something different to work with each brand. So the first thing I think that's helped me is listening. Before I do anything for any clients, I just first of all kind of let them explain to me their vision, their mission, why they started the company, how they imagine the company on social media, who they see. These are just some questions you can ask your clients, who they see themselves like on Instagram or on social media, to just kind of understand and gauge, the voice, the brand identity, how I'm going to tackle their content, because sometimes you can have all the innovation and sometimes the clients can just be very simple. So the first thing is, of course, listening to what the client needs. The second thing that has helped me is initiative. I think initiative. So yes, I've listened to the clients. I now fully take my time to fully understand what the client needs. But then sometimes I take that extra initiative. If I feel like there's this new thing that everyone is doing, I'm going to be like, oh, you guys should try this out for your brand, or you should check that out. And I will try my best to sell that particular thing to the clients, and even, create them like, you should check this out. So listening, taking initiative, and something that's gotten me this far, I won't even lie, is patience from God, because anybody that works in this industry will know that clients, whew. So something that's definitely helped me get far, especially with clients, because one thing I always usually hear from them is, oh, Tusi, you're so wonderful. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it's a lie. It's because I'm patient with you. Because any other person would be like, fuck off, and I don't want this job anymore. So I'm usually kind of patient with clients. I'm just like, okay, I understand you're upset, but so yeah, having patience to understand that you are going to meet people that will tell you that you are mad, but they are mad, and then they're telling you that you are crazy. I mean, you're just gonna be like, well, okay. So definitely patience, initiative, listening to the clients, and honing my craft. Sorry, that should have been first. I always research new apps, new Instagram updates, how it affects engagement, how it reduces engagement. I literally am always reading about my industry every single day so that I can be up to date and do better for my clients. So yeah, those 4 things.
Great. How about Peace?
I think Tutu has said everything that works for all of us. But if I would add anything, I think for me, in addition, would be just sticking to my expertise and being consistent. If there's anything that's happening with content creation, is sticking to my expertise and being consistent. Sticking to my expertise means that I do what I know. I create content based on what I know. These are what I'm really good at. So it's easy. So it feels like it comes easy to me. It's easier to write. It's easier to make videos. It's easier to invite people to come for interviews and all of those stuff because it's what I know. I don't have to struggle so much for it. Within my niche, and that makes it really easy. And then 2, it's being consistent. Consistency is one of the biggest things that will pay you in the long run if you want to do the business of content or if you're a content creator. You can't, like, it's a consistency is king, and it's the whole truth. You can't attend this webinar today and hear about consistency and say, okay, you know what, I'll be consistent. And after doing 2 weeks, you leave it for another 2 months and you come back. There's so much content that we're all consuming on the internet. And the best way for you to retain top of mind is for people to see you more often, which means that you have to be consistent. So yes, so consistency and sticking to my expertise makes it really easy for me to create content and for me to do well and for me to make money off it.
Great. Thank you so much. And Toby?
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone has said, especially that consistency one. Like consistency is key, but it can be hard because life gets in the way. So I think aside from that, for me, like there's also the most important thing for me is like focusing on the human factor of it all. Like social media is a battleground. And I feel like it's not always reflective of who people are. Like you can't really tell, I mean, you can't tell who a person is like based on seeing a picture of them. So I think like things like you said before, replying to people's comments, like just being nice to people. Like if someone asks me a question, like I've had people ask me questions, excuse me. I've had people ask me questions like, oh, I'm really trying to get into fashion. Like, how do I get into fashion? I don't work in fashion. I don't know how to get into fashion, but like I have friends who do. So I'll DM my friends and be like, hey, this person asked me a question. Like, would you be willing to talk to them? So just like being nice to people, basically, like it's not, if you don't know something, like you can always help them research it, help them find it out. It's like, or even that's like from the followers perspective, right? It's like my followers. My followers, I always like reply. Well, most if the comments are polite, if the comments are nice, and if the comments are not inappropriate, so the DMs are not inappropriate, then I'll reply to them. And then with brands, again, being polite goes a long way. I think working in digital marketing now and working with a lot of influencers, like I've seen the way people reply to emails that I don't think is nice. And I've seen the way that I reply to emails and I'm like, okay, they might appreciate that. So for example, like if I send you an email now, Ayomide, and I'm like, oh, hi, Ayomide, how are you, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would like to work, or like my brand is doing blah, 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 blah. How much, like, would you be willing to work with us? And then you DM me back like, how much? That's not nice. How about like, hi, Toby, how are you? How much? Do you know what I mean? Like something like that. So I'm always very polite to brands. That also helps me like build a relationship with them and keep a relationship with them. So I've had brands, I'm working with brands now that have gifted me when I first started this. And now like they're paying me like consistently and they push my content without me even asking. They use my content to run their ads sometimes because like building a friend-like relationship with them, being polite to them, being nice to them is so much more important than just like, I mean, obviously money is great, money is important too, but being nice to people so that that money continues and being nice to people so that you can build that relationship and they might put you on with other people and then you really grow your portfolio and you grow like your portfolio. That really goes a long way. So yeah, the human factor for me is like probably one of the most important things to me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna go into the Q&A quickly. Give me 1 second. Great. So I'm going to ask, and if any of the panelists would like to jump in and answer, please do. So the first question is, I haven't made a first Instagram post, but I want to get into influencing and fashion. What's your advice for that, please? Anyone?
I can jump in there on the influencing one. I think honestly, like these things take time. It can sound a lot easier. Like Tutu said earlier, like influencing isn't easy all the time. Like you have to be consistent with your content. You can't just expect that like after one post, all of a sudden everything is going to fall into place. And that's not necessarily how it works. Like you have to be like consistent with your content. What's it called? Engage with people in your niche. Comment on their posts. If you're looking for advice from, I don't know, somebody who like is doing something that you want to do, DM them, ask questions, do your research. Again, be consistent, like stick to have like, there should be a bit of personality in like what you're doing. Don't just do it because someone else is doing it. Like Koinsola said earlier, it's important to, like, obviously there are going to be people who are doing the same thing as you, but like you have to have a template, your own personal template that like you stick to. So these things take time. It's not going to happen in like, probably won't happen in a month or like 2 months, probably won't happen in a year, but it will happen eventually if you're consistent, if you're different, if like you're sticking to your templates. Just yeah, like it'll if you work hard enough at it, it'll come eventually. These things happen with time.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to say, Because I know you said you hadn't. I know you said you hadn't done the post, so I was gonna say try and make that first post, because so many people, so many businesses have kind of stalled by just saying I'm creating a business page, and then they create that username and then they just leave it blank. So definitely make that first post. If you're still too scared to make that first post, then why don't you do something like a mini brand guide for yourself? So what you can just say is, okay, what type of influencer do you see yourself being like? And then just have your list of kind of like inspiration pages. Then what do you see your brand like? So, you know, you would ask yourself, I see Tutu on Instagram being, and then write the words that you would like to be described as, because not everything we all share on Instagram. There's, you know, and there's some parts of yourself that you want to brand, and there's some parts that you just want to leave, you know, for your personal life. So kind of create a list of how you see yourself being as a brand. Write maybe some colors, because as much as influencers are authentic, they have this kind of vibe to their page. It's kind of brownie or bright. Have those kind of keywords for yourself. So just create like a mini brand guide that you can follow. Maybe do a mood board of how you want to take your pictures and videos, and then just kind of create that. And maybe you have some confidence to like just start posting.
Oh, thank you, Tutu. Okay, this one is from Ayade Odusoya. Hi, I'm trying to get into social media and community management. How do I go about it? Are employers looking for loads of experience or just an important one? Also, please, can someone share any obstacle they face being a community manager? Coinsala, do you want to answer this? I know it's not social media.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I'm the one to tell you what employers are looking for, because I still don't know how I got this job. Like, I know it sounds really annoying and this is like not the best advice, but I think you need some sort of proof. So for me, like, I was giving like my Instagram page as proof of like content creation, etc. They asked me different scenarios or ideas of what I had. For example, okay, what are my ideas on growing like numbers in a community? I would give my ideas on like, literally in the interview, I had to come up in like 5 minutes, I had to come up with like a fully fledged campaign on how to use like digital marketing, email marketing, influencer marketing, social media to like get people to sign up to subscribe to like a website or whatever. So I guess do research on like digital marketing tactics and try and learn about that, because they'll be looking for that. If you have any sort of proof, if you've never worked in the job, and because that was me, I had never had like an actual, you know, community growing digital marketing sort of job. I guess maybe you can use your personal social media as proof as well, which is what I did. But I think, yeah, do research on like actual digital marketing tactics and try and come up with different scenarios. So obviously, you know, the job you're applying for, you kind of know the sort of content that they would want. Try before like applying or before an interview, try and come up with different scenarios in which you can pitch like really good ideas on how to grow communities and stuff like that. That's probably what I would say.
Okay, great. Thank you, Coinsala. Okay. Someone said, would you advise we reach out to brands or wait for them to speak to us? Anyone can go.
I like, I've only ever reached out to one brand ever. But that's genuinely just because, like I said before, like I'm just an awkward person. I just can't do it. But reaching out to brands is definitely something that, like, if you want to get into it, if you know what, like I said before, like if you know what your content is worth, if you know what kind of content you can make, and if you know that it's good and it's in line with them, then 100%, like, definitely reach out to brands. But obviously, like, there's also the thing of like, say you want to reach out to a brand where all their stuff is, and this is just like a very like random example, that it's like a rainbow color brand. Everything on their page is rainbow and everything on your page is all black, like all you wear is black. That relationship probably won't work. So if it's like in line with your values and in line with you, and you think that they might like what you do and they might like you, then definitely. But at the same time as you should set yourself up for success, you don't want to set yourself up for disappointment.
Okay, great. Thank you, Toby. Tutu, did you want to say something?
Yes, I also wanted to say just a pro tip. If you're reaching out to brands, don't reach out to brands on their social media pages, because the social media manager is handling it. So yeah, it depends. It depends on what you are trying to reach out to them for. But yeah, sometimes with an email, yeah, you can do that. And then if you're sending them an email, always point out something that you noticed is wrong, and then offer a solution to it, just so that you can sell yourself a little bit more.
Thank you. Okay, because we're running out of time, I'm gonna ask the last question and try and include 3 questions in one. And then I don't know if the panelists, would like to say their social media handles or any other way people can reach them, just in case anyone's questions weren't answered. So let me quickly just ask this. I'm finding it hard doing a portfolio. I have some experience on social media management, but I don't know how to organize it in a portfolio. Someone also said, I'm finding it really difficult landing a job in digital marketing, even though I have the experience. Would it be a good idea to create a portfolio of my work that I can show companies when I'm applying? And then how do you onboard clients for someone who has little or no experience with digital marketing or social media management? So basically, how does one build a portfolio? And if you don't have that portfolio of experience, how do you gain it to get a job? Any of the panelists are free to answer.
Okay, if you want to create a portfolio and you're just starting out, an easy thing you can use is Canva. Canva has tons of presentation templates that you can just kind of add your own text to it. So you can kind of create a portfolio or even a one-pager, depending. What is in your portfolio is just you, maybe a short bio about yourself, your previous clients. You can choose to put your rates in it or just leave the rates for the next conversation. But all in all, your bio, previous clients, maybe work you've done, examples of, so if you say content creator, maybe do some examples of content you've created, maybe 1 or 2 testimonials from your previous clients if you have any. So it can just be like 5 or 6 slides, like an easy portfolio. And then you can either end with your rates or don't put your rates until maybe after they ask you for your rates. If you are trying to build a portfolio when you're just starting out, I mean, for me, this is a very tricky one, because I have said before that for me, when I was starting out, I was literally just taking on any clients just so that I could build my portfolio. But then I've heard some people say, oh, don't do that, start with your main price and then work your way from there. But I literally did it as a way of saying, go tell everybody. I'll always say, okay, I'm taking this, but please spread the word, tell anyone if you liked my services. And then I use that to build a very extensive portfolio. And then when I saw that, I was not like, okay, I'm stopping here. And then I now developed my own rates. So if you're trying to start out in the beginning, I would say maybe try and take on, I don't want to say free jobs, but maybe some jobs that you wouldn't have normally otherwise taken, to build that portfolio, to build your referral link, because it's very important in social media. Build your referral link and then maybe work your way up from there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything there. And I think for me, even because I had 0 experience in digital marketing when I got my job. I had to write my CV from scratch. So like I said before, words have meaning. I had an Instagram page that I'd already, my fitness page, and I also had my main page as well. And I think as much as people think social media is just a very frivolous thing, you can actually turn it into a career, and it really is around the way you talk about it. So like I said, for example, during quarantine, I grew my page. On my CV, I literally said, planned, developed, executed a new rebranding of my social media strategy in order to grow my page organically from XYZ to XYZ. When you use words, words have meaning. Using words like that, it makes it seem like, I mean, literally all I did was take some pictures and then people are liking them. But when you say it in such a way that makes it sound a lot more than what it is, then you also realize, okay, well, that's exactly what I did. I completely rebranded the way I was doing everything. And so this is why I grew from this to this. So like, for example, like on my fitness page, when people weren't allowed to go to gyms, I started doing zero equipment exercises. That's again, like I put that on my CV in such a way that made it seem like I was able to completely, switch everything around and pick up something different. And then researching the job that you're getting into. I did a lot of research into social media marketing and digital marketing. Researching the job that you're getting into, seeing exactly what it is that they like, and then putting evidence of something that you've done on your CV that it does not necessarily have to relate to what the job is, but something related to that. So like, even if like, you're applying to be a team leader in the company that you want to work for, and then you were head of your school, or like you were head of your school, or you were head of a team at your school, and you managed to lead them to success through a series of challenges. Things like that have a lot more value than people expect them to have. Obviously, experience is definitely important, but experience is not necessarily everything, because someone that's far less experienced than you could actually do a far better job than you. So just like gassing yourself, basically, understanding your value as a person, understanding what you think you might be able to bring to a company, understanding the position that you're getting yourself into, and doing your research around it. Because obviously, like I said, I didn't really know anything about digital marketing until I went into it. I actually told my boss that like the thing I wanted to do mainly was just get my feet wet in like the digital marketing world. And then somehow through that, like it's a job that I've really grown to learn to love. And it's a job that actually came easier to me than I expected, purely for experience outside of the profession.
Thank you, Toby. I'm sorry we have gone a little bit over time, so I'm going to end it now. Do any of the panelists have any last words to say to the audience? I know people have been asking for all your social media handles. Please put it in the box so that people can follow you and interact with you. If you have anything to say, please let me know. If not, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alpha, for always for partnering with us. Thank you to the panelists for giving us your time. And thank you to all our attendees for showing up and listening. If you have any feedback, our social media handles are at Femme Africa. I will put it down as well. And you can reach out to us whenever you need anything. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here. Bye.